Alright, operator's manual TM3805-26210. Loader scooper type DED 4x4 articulated frame steer 2.5 cubic yards JI case model MW24C NSN 38050115048114. Chapter 2 Instructions Chapter 2 Operating Instructions. Chapter Overview. For the purpose of the chapter, familiarize with equipment so that they can operate safely and efficiently and effectively. Section 1 Description of the use of the operator controls indicators. Section 2 Preventive Maintenance Check Services PMCS. Section 3 Operation under usual conditions. Section 4 Operator under unusual conditions. Section 1 Description of the operator control indicator of the instrument panel with the right instrument panel, left instrument panel. Console, switch panel, switch control, circuit breaker, the transmission control, brake throttle control with the turn signal and flasher, rear windshield, defogger, fans, dome light switch, upper and lower door latches, operator, SC, loader controls, external mounted controls, and indicators, other operator controls, indicators. 12-1 instrument panels, right instrument panel, 1 circuit breakers. 5 amp circuit breaker with a resettable with a circuit breaker reset with the pressing of the button pops out with a circuit breaker with the protects the hydraulic filter, warning the indicator switch with the buck with the height and the return to take controlled circuits. 5 amp circuit breaker with a reset with the circuit breaker reset with the pressing button with the bottom pops out with the circuit breaker that blows out with the prop takes the auxiliary steering control with the circuit with the air brake pressure switch and buzzer gauges, warning indicators located on the left of the instrument panel with the cab relay. Solenoid and electrical fuel pump. So use your 2.5 amp circuit breakers on your control panel. Right instrument panel with an engine switch, ignition key switch. The first unmarked position with a key turn counterclockwise and apply with the power to the vehicle light switching enable the light for the to be turned with the auxiliary steering control circuit with the load air pressure with the warning circuit with the sound warning buzzer gauge with the left instrument panel with the warning indicators turning them on and an electrical fuel pump. All position key straight electrical system off. Position key turn with the first and clockwise position apply with power to the vehicle light, enabling the lights to be turned on. Auxiliary steering control circuit with a low air pressure warning circuit with a pounding warning buzzer gauge with the left instrument panel warning indicators turning them on. Electrical fuel pump return to dig and back bucket height control circuit. Starting position key turn extra clockwise with the spring load with the return apply with the power to the return dig and bucket height with the control circuit. Crank starter motor with the 2 start the engine momentary with the hydraulic filter warning indicator with apply with the power with the cold start switch. Cold start switch aid in starting of the engine with the temperature is 40 degrees or less. Warning starting fluid is toxic and highly flammable. Use the caution when handling. Push button switch operates only with the ignition key. Switch is in cranking starter. Pressing switch energized with the solenoid valve installed with the cold starting container with all starting fluids to enter the intake manifold. So your cold starting switch and your key. The 3 instrument panel with the right instrument panel floodlight switch and warning indicator floodlight switch. 2 position toggle switch on and right position turns on the front and rear flood lamps. Note main switch for the vehicle light with the switch to be with the service drive with the position for the switch to operate off position left position turns off front and rear flood lamps. Hydraulic filter warning indicator light turns on momentary with the first starting engine indicating bulb. This is okay during the operation term for the indicator hydraulic filters are clogged with require replacement. Right instrument panel, vehicle's light switch. The main switch, the 5-position switch light with a BO marker with the blackout tail light with the stop light with the light with the brake and the tread valve with its press. The BO drive blackout all tail light, blackout driving lamp stop lights with the light when braking tread valve with its press. Off, unmarked, all lamps off. Stop lights. Stop lights will light with the brake of the brake treadle valve with the press. Turning the sign signal can be turned on. Service drive, tail lights in front, driving lamps lit. The stop lights will light with the brake tread valve with its press, but the turn signal with the flood lamps that can be turned on. Note: the ignition key switch must be in extreme counterclockwise position or on the position of vehicle lights to switch to operate. Auxiliary switch. 4-position switch selection with the panel BRT with the gauge light with the right lead light with the cab dome light can be turned on. Dim the gauge light with the dim light with the cab dome light can be turned on. Off unmarked panel the tail and the lights off. Park service tail lights the light in the main service drive position with the make of the gauge of the dim light with the cab dome that can be turned on. Blackout turning the tail lights lit. Main switch for the BO driver, the BO marker position. Note: main switch section must be in the auxiliary position other than the off of the auxiliary switch set to operate. Mechanical lock. Spring-loaded switch to the section lock unmarked main switch can be Spring-loaded mechanical lock, spring-loaded switch section. Lock-on marked with the main switch can only be played for the BO marked with position. All other positions locked out. When locked, enabled the main switch to be played for the BO. Drive the top lights or serve the drive position to operate. Hold the lever to unlock position. Move the main switch to the desired position. Right instrument panel continue. Other controls indicator. Shut off control fuel. Shut off control engine. Stop the cable connected with the fuel injection pump. Pump fuel. Shut off lever. The pull out with the stop engine. After the engine has stopped, push the control in. Control must be pushed in all in order to start the engine. Put marking brake control. The pull on. Push off control. Apply with the parking brake. Pulling knob. Apply with the parking brake. Pushing the knob. Release the parking brake. When parking the brake, apply with the brake engaged and the clutch. For warning indicators on the left instrument panel will be lit. Your dimmer compartment light control. The rheostat controls the brightness of the gauge light with the cab dome light with the auxiliary switch when they position, then other than off the turn to control with the extreme counterclockwise position from the bright light switch. If turn the counterclockwise to decrease the brightness. Extreme clockwise position turns the lights off. Air pressure warning alarm. Audible alarm sounds when the engine is first started until the air pressure reaches approximately 65 psi, which is time that will be turned off during the operation. Sound to warn the operator that there's not enough air pressure to continue operating the loader safely. Left instrument panel warning indicators. Brake engage. Warning indicator light turns on the indication lower air. No air pressure for the brake system will also turn on the braking control is pulled out with the other indicated brake and supply. The oil pressure warning indicator light turn the indication there's no oil pressure. Low oil pressure in the engine will also turn on the engine if the top of the engine key switch is turned to the position indicating the bulb is okay with the indicator. Turning on the engine is running with the turn off the engine off. To check the engine oil level. To start engine oil level is okay. Do not start the engine or notify the organizational level maintenance. Auxiliary steering. Alright, audible warning indicator light with a buzzer sign with a lamp to turn for the indicating steer system does not operate with the auxiliary steering system is operating with a buzzer with the sounds and or lamp turns on stop with the loader immediately notify the organizational maintenance. No, the auxiliary steering system is only used for a short period of time. The steering system does not operate with the actuator. The system will allow to steer the loader with a hydraulic power until the loader can be stopped. After stopping the loader, be sure to turn the ignition key with the switch of the off position and apply with the parking brake as soon as possible. If you fail to do so, you will cause damage to the auxiliary steering electrical motor of the discharge of the batteries. Clutch press, warning indicator light. Turn on the indicator, turning on the indication that there is no oil pressure, but the low oil pressure in the transmission torque converter will also turn off the engine. Will also turn on the engine if the stop of the ignition key switch is turned to the on position, indicating bulb, but it's okay with the engine running. The clutch tread valve. And treadle valve is pressed if the parking brake is applied. If the indicator turns on with the engine running with the declutch treadle valve is not depressed, stays on for more than 60 seconds. Stop the engine. Notify the organizational maintenance. Left instrument panel continued. Conversion temperature gauge indicate the transmission for the converter temperature for the normal operating temperature. Indicate with the green area of the gauge. The gauge pointer goes in the red area section. Lower transmission. If the pointer remains in the red area, stop the operation more. Move the transmission control within the level in the neutral position, and then run the engine throttle position. Full throttle. If this does not reduce the temperature indication, stop the engine. Check with the transmission oil level. If the oil level is okay, check the radiator for obstructions. Air pressure gauge indicate the brake system. Air pressure normal. Air pressure indicated with the air pointer is in the green arrow gauge. With the air pressure decrease, the pointer goes into the red area. Warning buzzer will sound and alert you of this condition. If the air pressure continues to decrease, parking the brake will automatically engage. Fuel level. The gauge indicates the amount of fuel in the fuel tank. Meter indicates the volt level of the meter with the volt level of the battery's voltage. Normally, when the pointer indicates the 24 volts, the pulsar indicates below 22 volts. Battery charge is too low with the condition operation of the alternator with the not charging battery. The pointer indicates above the 30 volts with the batteries were not weak. Alternators other charging batteries. If the condition continues, the damage of the batteries will report these problems to organizational maintenance. Water temperature gauge indicate the temperature of the coolant with the engine cooling system. Normally cooling temperature indicate with the gauge pointer with the green area. The pointer goes in the red area. Stop the engine. Check the radiator coolant level or for radiator obstructions. Left instrument panel, windshield wiper, windshield washer control. Push on control the flow of the washer. Solvent sprayed on the windshield. Push the control and spray wash solvent on the windshield. Release to stop the spray. Switches and controls. Defroster switch. The D-position rotary switch that turns on the defroster motor located above the front windshield. The defrog from the window off turns off the defroster of the motor. Your heater fan switch. 3 positions. Pull on, pull, and push off switch. The out-low switch for them out. Low switch pulled completely out with the heater fan operates with low speed. With the heater fan draw air over the heater with the cover the core where it is heated with the expel from the heater console. MID or HI, switch head shaft pulled out with the first to the 10 with the position heater fan operates with a high speed in and slash off switch shaft pushed in heater fan off. Front wiper switch, the 3-position rotary switch H for high with the front windshield shield wiper motor operator with a high speed L for front of the window shield wiper motor operator, low speed off with the front windshield wiper motor off. Heat control, battery control, clockwise rotation increase with the counterclockwise rotation decrease. The control flow for the engine cooling system cooling from the heat of the core with the maximum heat with the turning on the control completely clockwise to warm position. Turn off the heat, turn the control off position, warm the valve completely opening and allowing the maximal flow of the engine coolant through the heater core off. The valve closed, the flow of the engine coolant through the heater of the core blocked. Circuit breakers, and 6 amp circuit breaker with the resettable with the circuit with the breaker, the reset with the press button, the button pops out with the circuit breaker that blows out with the protect the defroster and defroggers fans of the circuit. 3 amp circuit breaker, resettable circuit with the reset for the pressing of the button pops out with the circuit breaker that blows for the protects the front windshield wiper circuit. 3 amp circuit breaker with the resettable circuit with the reset for the pressing button blows out the pops out with the circuit breaker that blows out protects the heater and fan circuit. Our transmission controls. Transmission control with the select of the direction, drive with the V, with the forward, with the rearmost, with the reverse R, with the next position neutral, with the third position low range forward, F for the forward position, with the high range of the forward H to go with the low range of the forward, the high range of the forward H, for you must lift the control level to push it up forward. When the control level of the reach of the R position, back up the alarm when the rear of the loader will sound. Control level must be in the end for the neutral to start the engine. D-clutch tread valve. Neutralizing transmission applied with the stroke of the brake if it turns the stoplight with the clutch press with the warning indicator used to provide maximum engine power to increase the load, hydraulic power with raising the bucket, moving the loader into the stockpile with the engine speed, decrease of the press with the D-clutch with the tread valve to disengage the transmission press for the accelerator pedal with the increase of the engine RPM provide with the maximum engine power to load with the hydraulic system quickly raise the bucket. 2-4 brake throttle controls. Steering wheel, the steering loaded with the moving at the front of the chassis with the pivot pin, turn clockwise for the right turn counterclockwise for the left turn. Warning, do not depress with the button this time with the steering wheel is not with the horn of the depressing with this button will cause the steering wheel to collapse on the shipment. The purpose for the depress with the button while operating the loader. Steering wheel will collapse. Your fingers could be crushed in between the steering wheel and the windshield wiper motor bracket. The accelerator pedal decrease the engine speed, decreasing the pedal increase the engine, releasing the pedal decrease the engine RPMs. Horn valve. They actuate the horn valve places the button foot within the sound area with the horn. And surface air brake tread valve. They apply surface brake. They place treadle valve to apply with the brakes. Move the vehicle switch from the main switch in any position other than off stoplight when turned on. Alright, your turn signal and flasher. The turn signal switch. The 3-position switch with the indicator lever the forward position away from you with the lamp assembly mounted at the top of the left of the cab. Flash for the on and off signal left turn rub bulb located in the turn signal switch also with the flash on and off. The return lever of the central position also shall be completed the turn the stop lamp assembly with the flashing lever in the center position turns the signal off the rearward position towards you. Lamp assembly mounted at the top of the right of the cab flashes on and off single right with the light. Right turn bulb located with the turn switch of the also flash on and off. You must return the lever to the central position after you've completed the turn of stop lamp assembly from flashing. Hazard control, pull on control, pull out, the pull control out with the right lamp assembly mounted with the top of the left of the right of the cab flashes on and off of the bulb located with the turn signal switches also flashes on and off. Often the turn off the flash lamp with assembly with the pulling on the turn switch with the lever down or up. Rear window shield wiper defogger fan with the on and off switch with the 3-position rocker switch with the fan motor operates for the low speed and the off that turns off the power of the fan motor H for the high fan motor operates for the high speed. To adjust the position of the defogger fan with grass motor with the windows with your hands and firmly move to the desired position before adjusting portion of the defog fan with be sure that it is not operating. Failure to do so could cause the serious injury of the fingers or hand rotating of the fan blade. The injury of the fingers of the hand obtain medical aid immediately. Dome light switch. On and off the 2-position rocker switch on and the to turn the cab lights on and vehicle with the light switch main with auxiliary switch may be made in any position other than the off switch to operator the dome light brightness of the cab dome light control with the dimmer control compartment lights and control. The turns off the cab dome light. Your upper lower door latch is released upper the door, enabling the swung open warning when upper door is open and be sure that the latch is side over the cab. Failure to do so will allow the door to swing back and forth, causing the glass to break the injury. You move the latch handle towards the rear of the cab, release the latch, and when the upper door with the release open, you must latch it into the side of the cab, preventing the injury to yourself and damaging it. Your door latch. Latch doors are closed. Position to open the latch. Over the push the latch handle down with until the latch clears the door. Striking, swinging door open. Release the latch handle. The latch door. Push the latch handle down. Gently, firmly close the door. Release the handle. Check with the latch and engage the door. Striker. Cab latch. Latch open the door and open position. Latch open the door with the side of the cab. The release of the door latch with the swing upper door with the open all the way with the move of the cab latch handle towards the front of the loader. Gently but firmly push up the door with the side of the cab with the move of the cab handle to engage the bracket exterior upper door with the move of the latch handle towards the front of the loader or to release the upper door. Operator seat. The front FOREAFT adjustment lever to release the seat in the fore and aft adjustment, locking seat in position seat and sit in seat, move the lever to the left of the release seat with the adjustment, then move it forward, reverse, and rearward until the seat is the desired position. Height adjustment. Release the seat with the height adjustment, loosen the bolt just enough to raise or lower the seat, raising the seat with the grasping seat with the bottom until the desired height is obtained. Lower the seat with the firmly pushing down on the seat with either hands and until the desired height is obtained. Tighten the bolt securely, adjusting its height. Loader controls. Lifting arm control level. The floor position with the control lever. The control flow with the hydraulic oil filter. Lifting cylinder assembly. Float. The bucket flows with the contour with the ground. Usually open the bucket and the ground that you want to flow. Power the shape of the ground. Cover the oil to flow between the ends of the lifting cylinder assembly only. Lower the bucket as long with the control lever in position. Neutral. Bucket held in position. Raise bucket is desired with the height until the neutral or until the height is selected with the bucket and height control is reached. Bucket control lever. The position with the control lever. The control button position with the dumping carrying the load. The dump of the bucket will quickly position with the dump of the load. Neutral bucket held in position. It's crowd. Bucket rolls between the control lever. The return to neutral position. Use the position bucket for the carrying load. Clam lever. Control lever. The reposition control lever. The controls clam opening and closing. Open the clams. Opens the clam until the control of the plate for the whole position. Clam the open in the maximum position. Holds the clam in the position. Close until the clamp of the lever plate for the whole position. Clamp closely. Completely closed. Low controls continued. Bucket height control. The approximately stop lift the lift the arms. Prescribe the dump height. The use of the controls on leading over the truck, rails, cars, hoppers, etc. Refer to particular page 245 adjustment. Alright, your bucket level indicator tube with the rod telescoping in and out with the loading right bucket with the tube, the cylinder, tilt the cylinder assembly when the end of the rod is 1 inch above the top of the tube of the bucket is level with the ground with the bucket. Have to return to the position select with the return to dig control. You return to dig control with the automatically return to the bucket to dig position preset for this with the control you for the conjunction with the bucket with the control level, the crowd position, the lifting arm control level, the float position, refer to page 246 for the adjustments. Or selector level. Bucket can be used with the scooping, scraping, dosing, and clamshell operation. Selector gauge used with the show of the bucket as shown with the driver's seat, the selector gauge, and the selection alignment marks. Standard bucket. Selector gauge 0 level indicators rod in 1 inch out of the tube. The dosing selector dove the reading off the gauge is level indicator with the root 4 to 5 inches off of the tube. Your scraping selector grade of the 2 to 4 level indicator rod is inside of the tube. Your clamshell selector gauge with the reading off the gauge level the indicator rod nipple is just out of the approximately 1 inch of the start of the clamshell operation blade covering the 2/3 of the height of the object clam is rolled open and forward closed. Externally move the end indicators. Hour meter and tachometer connection for the engine. Tachometer drive the hour meter indicate the cumulative of the end of the engine operating hours collected with the engine. Tachometer drive the operates only when the engine is operating records up to 9,999.9 hours. Tachometer indicates the engine speed with the revolution per minute, and each of the short mark with the gauge equals 50 RPMs. Each long mark equals 100 RPMs. Your cleaner restriction indicator indicates the air cleaner element requires servicing factory set with the signal air cleaner filter elements will require servicing by is red signal indicator inside of the indicator gradually arrive at the airflow with the degree of the dirt particles trapped in the elements when the red signal is fully exposed with the locked in the position. After servicing filter elements indicator is reset by pressing the top of the indicator. Slave receptacle the power battery permits the charging of the battery. Slave starting with the engine and with the external power source that also provide with the power source for the charging slave and the other equipment. 24 plows volt negative to the ground with available at the receptacle. Alright, other operators control with the indicators. The transmission oil level, the dipstick info with the indicator for the transmission oil level should be full with the add marks with the conversion temperature gauge indicator with the green zone with the engine operating with the actual speed. Unlike dipstick with the turn the handle with the counterclockwise several the turns, then pull up to remove to be sure the dipstick is fully seated, reinstall with the turn hand clockwise to the right to the tighten to then lock it. Alright, you remove the engine oil level of the dipstick and fill, that indicates the engine oil level. The oil level shall be minimum. Add full and full markers of the dipstick with the turn the handle dipstick counterclockwise, double the turn, then pull the remove, then install the dipstick, turn handle clockwise, tighten. Hydraulic reserve full located behind the front of the access door. Warning: the hydraulic reserve of the pressurized shut off the engine before removing the hydraulic reserve filler cap. Failure to do so could cause the serious injury to death. When the engine off, the unlock of the open access door. Open clean cloth, clean air around fill cap. The remove of the fill cap of the all hydraulic oil until the oil level can be seen with the side of the gauge, and reinstall the filler cap and tighten it securely by hand. A hydraulic reservoir oil level site gauge indicates the hydraulic system oil level. Oil levels should be within inside of the gauge when the engine is offloaded or parked, and the levels are within bucket lowered into the ground. 212. The operator's other controls and indicators continued. Air reserve drain valve located with the right side of the rear load of it, engaged with the drain with the water of the air reserve when the engine slowly operating the drain valve with the drain water from the air reserve, tighten drain valve securely after all the water is drained. Section 2. Preventive maintenance check services. Alright, general preventive maintenance check services. Every mission begins with the end of the paper the work that is not much of it, but you have to keep it up with the form of the record that you feel of the trouble that you have there, of the permanent record, the trouble, the repairs, modifications made on the lower, the reports for the organizational management for the commander. They are checklist when you want to know what's wrong with the loader, with the after the laugh, whether these votes have been fixed for the information needed for the forms recorded with the DA PAM 7385750. Preventive maintenance check services for the items number of the table of the tube, but they indicate the sequence of the preventive maintenance check services that are to be able to perform. Column should be with the source of the numbers for the TM number, column DA form 2404, equipment inspection maintenance worksheet and recording with the result of the preventive maintenance check services. During the check when the service is performed prior to the equipment leaving the contamination area with the performance and intent of the mission. During the check with the beginning with the equipment is being used with the intent of the mission. After the check with the service is beginning with the equipment is taken out with the mission return to its contamination area, contaminant area. During your weekly preventive maintenance check weekly, during your monthly and for preventive maintenance once a month. If something does not work, troubleshoot with the instruction. If this manual is and notify your supervisor. Always prevent the next time in order to get to be with a habit of over to have some practice. You'll spot anything wrong with a hurry. If any with the locks loose or locks wrong, you can fix it and write it in the DA form 2404. If you find something seriously wrong, report the organizational maintenance right now. No, when doing the preventive maintenance, take along with the tools you need to make all the checks. Also with the rag or the true. Warning: dry cleaning some of the PDE 680 with the clean parts with the toxic flammable wear, particularly the with the glove, that you the only well ventilated area. Avoid contact with the skin, the eyes, glove, don't breathe with the vapor, do not even near the open flame, except for the heat, do not smoke with the using it, the failure to cope with the serious injury. If you come with dizzy, well, even the cleaning solve with get fresh air and medication immediately with the contacts and skin clothes with the made with the large amounts of water, contact with the eyes made, wash eyes with water, get medical aid immediately. Warning: compress air for the cleaning purpose will not exceed 30 psi. Use the effective chipping guard for the personal protective equipment with the goggles and shield with the glove. The accessory fail with the show for the serious injury with the eye, with possibly blindness. If you hurt your eyes or foreign object with the balloon into the eyes, the seek medical attention immediately. Keep it clean with the dirt and grease and all the debris only get in the way with the made with the cover up the serious problem of cleaning as the work that's needed with the drive solve with the PD 680 with the clean the metal surface with the soap and the water with the clean the rubber the plastic material bolts nuts and screws with the check with the nut and loose from the missing band with the broken with you can try try them all with the tool of the core looking with the chip and paint with the very metal with the rust around with the bolt heads. If you find one that you think is loose and tight, then report with the organizational maintenance if you can tighten it with the weld to look if you can't tighten it. Welds: look for a loose with the chip paint with the rest of the gap of which part of the weld is together. Find the bad weld. Report with the organizational maintenance. Electrical wires with the connectors loosened. Look for a cracked or broken insulation bare wire with the loose or the broken connector for tight and loose connectors. Make sure that the wires are in good shape. The hose and fluid lines. Look for a wear damage leak with the make sure for the clamp of the fitting of the tip for the R type with the when the short shaft spots are shot. Show leaks the cord for the chain around with the fitting of the connector can make a leak of the leaks comes from the loose fitting of the connection to tighten them. The swim of the broken with the worn out. Report of organizational maintenance. If necessary, you find how the fluid leaks affected with the staff of the reviewer. Equipment following the definition from the type of the class for the class of the leakage you need to know they're able to determine the staff of the equipment, learn how to be familiar with them and write them with them, and then remember in doubt notify your supervisor. Preventive maintenance check services continue leakage. The definition of crew operative preventive maintenance check services at class 1 seepage of the fluid indicated wetness of the discolorization not great enough that the form drops. Class 2 leakage from fluid great enough that the form drops but enough to cause the drops to drip with the item being checked corrected inspection. If there's 3, leakage of the fluid great enough to drop the fall from the item with it being checked in inspection. Caution, equipment operations allowable to minor leakage of class 1 and 2, but of course the consideration must be given the fluid capacity with the system being checked and inspected. When in doubt, notify the supervisor. Class 3 leaks should be corrected immediately and reported to the supervisor or organizational maintenance. Alright, this is your interval. You have B. Item to be inspected, procedure check for the repair and fill for the adjustment as needed. The equipment notified in adjustment. Important, perform weekly as before the operation. Preventive maintenance check services. You are assigned with the operator to have not operated with the loader since the last week of the year operating with the loader for the first time. Note that the new loader for the following operation performed with the organizational maintenance for the 20 hours, comply with the warranty, place the engine oil filter, place the flaring, hydraulic system, filters, load pivot pin for the lubricating 22 field fittings 1 with the GA. Refer to the standard lube order 53805-26212. The necessary rear axle turning pivot is lubricated with the 2 fittings with the G2 with the using GA. Refer lube order 3805-26212 as necessary. Alright, item 3B, with the engine oil level unlocked, remove the engine left side of the panel of the 2 dipsticks, and turn the dipstick handle with the counterclockwise shovel to turn with the pull up to remove, to check the level of the dipstick level should be between the add and fill mark for the end mark on the dipstick. Add oil is necessary to bring the level to reinstall the dipstick. Turn clockwise several to reinstall the lock engine from the left side panel with the starter and the warning of when doing the following with the slow loosen the radiator, relieve the pressure with the performing completely, remove the engine failure to do so cause the service burns steam scalding over the scald of the hot steam the medical aid immediately. Coolant level, to unlock the radiator with the cap access pan with the slowly loosen the brake, remove the radiator cap 5 with the check with the coolant with the 1 over the 2 inch below with the radiator filler neck with the add the coolant necessary reinstall the radiator cap with the close with the lock of the radiator cap with the cess over the panels 4 and 5. Alright. Hydraulic system oil level. The loader parking with the low level surface of the bucket lowered into the ground with the engine off of the hydraulic oil level. In the side with the light gauge of the 6, the oil level should be sent with the side gauge. Oil level is now seen with the side gauge. Unlock the open front access door 7, loosen and remove the fill cap 8 with the add the oil until they seen with the sight glass. Engage fill cap 8 with the tighten securely. Retrieve the loose and missing and attaching hardware. Clue for the locking front of the access door. On the cold check of the oil level that should not be higher than 1/4 inch of the side of the glass. Your air reserve at the right side of the loader should be the rear axle slightly open. Air reserve with the drain valve 9 with the drain water clean for the air reserve. The drain valve circularly after all the water has been drained. Tires and wheels. Check with the tires wheel from the wear nails of foreign objects loosen with the missing of the lug nuts, studs, and the correct pressure. Have the organizational maintenance to check with the torque of the lug nuts with the new loader. First of the few hours, the first 5 hours, first 10 hours, first 20 hours, first 50 hours. After that, check it every 50 hours until the lug nuts remain tight. If the wheeling is removed, check the torque of the lug nuts within 50 hours until remain tight. Lug nuts shall be tightened 340 to 420 pounds of torque. The tire with less than 1/4 inch of the tread cut through the show of the tire cord will result in the tire failure during the operation. 1 or more tires flat over the missing. Your load exterior. Check with the leak of the oil hydraulic coolant with the appearance of the leak, especially under the loader. With the check the oil, protective of the structure of the ROPS, damage for the loosening of the mounting. Class 3 leakage, cracks, welds, and bucket and bolt. Buckle split seams loosening and a missing molten mounting bolt. Battery cables. Open the radiator grill 10 with the rear of the loader with the check of the battery cables. 11 with the corrosion connection with the battery terminal. 12 with the cap with the crack with the shaft of the insulation fray with the broken strain. So for the wire, check for the missing and broken battery caps. Wiring harness. Visually check the wiring harness and connection frayed or broken wires. Alright, your load bucket assembly. Visually check with the blade with the assembly with the 15 crack with the brake with the broken weld. To check with the hardness of the 14 with the secure bucket pins. 15 or tight, not loose for the check of the hard wire with the 16 check over the bucket, the clamshell sewn with the assembly piston, and pin 17 with the light tight and loose not loose. Cracks and breaks for the hardware loose from the missing. Warning, be careful when performing the following procedure not to be placed in any part of the body between the clamshell and the blade to close, and this could cause serious ear injury if the clamshell suddenly closes, crushing you. Alright, your cutting edge. Visually check with the clamp cutting with the edge with the 18 with the brakes with the and next with the starting with the engine with the operating with the L speed, raise the bucket with the 458 off the ground, place with the lift arm control level, the raise the position, return with the neutral, put the clamp control level, the open position, open the bucket clamshell, completely roll the bucket forward with the open the bucket with the lever, then the dump position, lower the bucket with the ground until the clamshell with the ground with the put the cribbing between the clamshell with the blade with the shown with the turn off the engine, relieve the hydraulic pressure by operating with all the control level to check the blade, cutting the edge of the 19, loosening the indicating missing, loosening, mounting hardware, the check of the blade cutting, and 19 for the crack brakes, and Nixon starting with the engine raised bucket, and removing the cribbing, return bucket to normal position, turn off. The clamshell teeth, assemble the check of the tube for the points for the 20 are present tube for the points for the crack brakes next, check of the tooth shank and or secured machine mounted not loosely. Fire shingle, check out the able to fire shingle street with the authorized locally the proper indicated with the green zone. Her warning indicator light. Turn ignition switch over the counterclockwise. The first position. Check out the brake engage. Oil 123. Oil pressure 24. Clutch press 25. The warning indicator is determined. The check of the air pressure warning with the alarm sound. Turn the ignition switch off. The position seat belt. Check if the seat belt is securely mounted. Material is not frayed. The latch is available. The lights. Put the vehicle light with the main switch for the 26 for the serve of the drive position. The move of the clutch. Driving the tail on the turn signal with the hard light. Hazardous lights work. Put the floodlight switch on in and the on position. The front and the rear of the lights working. We depress the brake tread valve. The check of the stoplight for the working, the rest of the vehicle work, switch main switch for the floodlight switching the 27 in the opposition. Put the vehicle light switch in, main switch in the BO drive of the position, the check of the blackout with the tail light for the driving lamp of the work, and put the vehicle light for the main switch 26 in the opposition. Your hydraulic fixture warning indicated with the check of the light with the 28 with the turns on momentarily cranking the engine. If the hydraulic warning indicator comes on during the operation, finish the shift and have the filters replaced before further operation. Warning indicator lights, brake engage 29, oil pressure for the 30 with the clutch pressure 31, auxiliary steering 32 with the indicator buzzer does not turn. Brake engagement, oil pressure for the clutch press, auxiliary steering lights during the operation. Gauge, check with the conversion temperature for the air 33, air pressure 34, water temperature 35, gauge and indicate with the green air. Check with the voltmeter gauge for 36, indicating the 22, the 32, 30 volts. The gauge does not indicate with the green arrow. Alright, before, during, before and during, tachometer, the check of the tachometer for the hours 37 are operating, before and during accelerator, check the accelerator operating smoothly, for the pedal sticks, 23, transmission control level, the check of the transmission control level that operates smoothly and correct with the gear, the range with the engage, the transmission does not operate with the 24, before, brake parking, control with the check of the brake holds the loader, 25, braking and during, service brake, check the service of the brake for the stop of the loader, service of the brake if it does not stop the loader, 26 before and during the backup alarm, check the alarm sign with the transmission control level in the reverse R. Load controls operating lift and arm 38 with the bucket and the clamshell 40 with the control level, the check of the movement and the smooth and intermediate with any function failed with the operator and the erratic. Before and during restriction indicator, the check of the restriction indicator with the half of the air cleaner of the elements for the serve of the indicator with the red. Before, auxiliary steering, start the engine, operate with the L speed for several minutes, pull the shut off valve control out to stop the engine during the ignition key switch over to the opposition, check the auxiliary steering buzzer sound with the warning indicator 44, turn on the steering wheel 45 with the check with the turn easily with the turn the ignition switch off of the opposition, down the auxiliary steering with the motor pump to operate more than 30 seconds. Alright, before, transmission oil level, turn the engine off of the pull off the parking brake control 46 for the place, the transmission control and 47 for the neutral position, and for the transmission service for the 48 engage for the keep the level of the straight with the prevent from pivoting the start of the engine operating with the L speed unlock with the remove of the transmission dipstick 49 check the oil level between the add and fuel mark for the dipstick with the transmission operating temperature and the oil until the level of the full mark reinstall the lock of the dipstick turn the engine with the transportation service the link of the operating position warning be sure the transport service the link of the disengage before driving the vehicle during failure to do so could cause severe injury death due to the loss of the steering control. Alright, 31. Fuel injector external with the unlock with the remove the engine wire of the right side with the fuel injector line 50 with the connection of the fuel injection pump 51 with the fuel leakage. Check with the hose 52 and 53 with the connection of the fuel injection pump with the fuel filter for the fuel leakage. Check the fuel inlet hose 54 with the connection of the fuel transfer pump with the fuel leakage. Check with the water sediment with the sediment bowl with the sediment appearing with the report of the organizational maintenance reinstall with the lock engine right side panel. Equipment not ready available. The fuel links leakage. With weekly dry belts unlock the remove of the engine rear side panel. Check with the dry belts 55 with the frayed damage condition. Check with the 56 for the damaged blades. One or more belts broken or missing. Equipment is not ready for available. Alright, weekly. Alcohol evaporator. Check with the alcohol plastic jar with the 1/3 of the hole with the loosen the inspect the deformation crack for the to add alcohol, loosen and remove the plastic fill 2/3 of the methanol alcohol, reinstall the lock engine mirror side of the panels. Weekly batteries. Open the radiator grill 57 and inspect the battery's electrical light. If the electrical level is low, notify the organizational maintenance battery cracked or missing. Weekly, drive shaft. Check of the drive shaft universal joints. Leave the mounting hardware. Check of the drive shaft of the wear of the damage. Grasping the drive shaft with the both hands. Trying to rotate it where the damage of the indicate with the excessive movement of the drive shaft in any direction. Equipment not ready or available for the mounting hardware. Loose for the missing of the drive shaft damage. Windshield wiper reservoir unlock with the open with the front of the axle for the door. Clear fluid in reservoir to add the fluid and pull up the fill cap of the reinstall the fill cap. Close the lock front access door. Alright, section 3, under unusual conditions. Initial check with adjustment, bucket height with control adjustment, return the day control with adjustment, operating procedure, starting the engine, starting the loader, stopping the loader, operating the loader, preparing the movement of driving, and towing the loader, preparing for the air transportation, and operating instruction for the decals instruction in the place. The 215 initial checks before the current lubrication order for the lubricating loader, refer to page 229 for the perform the preventive maintenance check. 216, bucket head with the control adjustment of this control automatically stop the loader with the bucket of dump pipe with you select with this control with the loading with the truck loader hopper the rail cars accession for the control consider for the control level the upper located with under the instrument panel with this micro switch or the mount of the bracket next for the control of the lever. The one lift the bucket height with the control level away from the all the way up. Warning, noise level to exceed the 85 decibels operating a loader with the cab the windows all the personnel shall wear the hearing protective device for the operating a loader with the windows are open to prevent hearing loss. 1, 2, start the engine. 3, lift up the arm control level of the raise the bucket with the desired height. Return the level to the neutral position when the desired height is obtained. 4, turn off the engine. 5, push the bucket height with the control level down until the micro switch makes for the sound. 5, 6, start the engine. 7, lift the arm control level and lower to the lower bucket to the ground. This shows the left instrument panel the bucket height control level to decrease the dump height and the decrease dump height increase the dump height. Adjustment, continue. The brake height with control adjustment, continue with the putting off the lifting arm control over the raised position, magnetic to 10 over the control valve with the hold with lifting arm control of the raised position until the bucket is height with the T with the step 3 above. Check the bucket to dump desired height with a small adjustment can be made with the pushing of the bucket height with control level down to increase with the dump height, lifting the bucket with the height control level to decrease the dump height. Lower the bucket ground to lift arm control level to the lower position, return lift arm control level to the neutral after the bucket is ground. 11, front turn off the engine. Return dig control adjustment. The control automatically return to the digging position. Consider the rod of the tube with the micro switch mount with the right bucket and the tilt the cylinder assembly. Float lower and neutral raise on the control level. With the engine operating lower level the neutral serve the lower bucket to the ground. Use the lifting arm control level and lower. Dump neutral crowded bucket control level. The lifting arm control in the floating position bucket control level. The dump position into position the digging the angle with the return the bucket control level the neutral position. Turn off the engine. Loosen and tighten off the cap screw the clamp screwing secure tubing of the micro switch with the right the bucket of the tilt cylinder. Assembly move the tube off the rod with the micro switch roller with the nut return with the rod with the micro turn tube on the rod and the micro switch and the roller the turning off the rod. You can hear the noise of the micro switch. Tighten the two cap screw with the nuts on the clamps. Do not let the tube and the micro switch move. Return to the digging control adjustment, micro switch roller light attach here, nuts and cap screws, tube, and then rob the use lifting arm control the raise of the position of the raise of the bucket to fail the fall. Full height of the height side of the bucket, height control the dump the bucket exists using the bucket control level into the dump position. Put the bucket control level in the crowd position, lifting arm control level in the floating position. Bucket will roll back and lower to the ground and enter the lifting arm control level in the neutral position. Check with the digging angle of the bucket. Desired digging of the angle of the bucket is not obtained with speed steps 2 through 11 and above. 217 operating procedure. Do not use the jumper cable to connect the battery terminals to start the or charge the batteries. Always use the slave. The receptacle failure to do so could cover the serious injury of the batteries exploding with the cover with improper connection with the jumper cable to the battery terminal. Starting the engine. Warning, be sure with the starting engine. Check with and be sure with the transportation. Service the link with the release position. For to do so will cover the steering loose. A loss of steering control may result with a serious injury of the death and extensive property damage. 1. Release the transportation service link with remove the two clips of the securing pin with the pull the tie bar into the from the chassis. Remove the transportation service link. Install the release position shown. Reinstall the pins for the screw with the clips. Starting the engine transportation line link with the down with the release and the operating position. Always use the handwheel step of the mount with the dismount loader. Do not use the standard steering wheel control the handrail. With the other method of the mounting of the dismounting of the loader could make the slipping and the fall and cause a serious injury. 2. Mounted loader sit on the operative seat. If necessary to adjust for the heat with the seat the height of the seat, it is necessary to fore and aft the position, but the forward and after position with the move of the adjustment lever the release the seat with the move of the seat with the forward backward necessary to close the back both the cab doors fasten your seatbelt. Forward adjustment lever located here. The height and adjustments cap screw loop from the raised and lower seat has been tightened. Starting the engine. Pull down the brake control to apply the braking parking brake control. parking brake control. Check with the ensure the hydraulic control level, the neutral and hold position. Hydraulic control level, starting with the shut-off control valve, the ignition key switch, clutch, brush indicator, warning light, oil indicator, light, brake engage, warning indicator, transmission control. Check to ensure the shut-off control valve is pushed completely and place the transmission control level in the neutral position before. When starting the engine, fasten your seatbelt securely with make sure the parking brake and the transmission control level in the neutral position. Both gap of the doors are closed. Fail to do so could cause a serious injury to the accident. Ensure the key, the ignition switch with the turn of the key of the first position. Clockwise position, the warning indicators, brake indicator, oil pressure, clutch, press if the turn on the air pressure warning, alarm sound. With the pull the control lever and push the accelerator pedal with the down approximately 1 to 2 inches. Starting the engine, continue with the accelerator pedal. The hydraulic selector warning indicator with the cold start switch and accelerator pedal. Caution, do not operate the starter motor more than 30 seconds within at least for the 3 minutes before cranking. Allow the battery to recuperate the start of the motor to control failure. Do so could cause the damage to the starter motor. Do the ignition switch with the second clockwise position starter motor will check crank the engine hydraulic filter warning indicator turns on. Starting fluid, toxic flammability container with the pressurized active, expel with the height of the container, don't discharge the fluid with the confined with the air near the open flame, they don't discard with the container with the open flame. Do any of the above will cover the explosion. Do not breathe with either the vapor level the other, either to come in contact with the skin. Do not do so will cause the severe injury or death. The temperature with below 40 degrees with the cold start switch with the start of the motor, cranking the engine, push the release of the cold start switch 2 times. The rest of the engine start with the ignition switch, key switch, and they will turn the first clockwise position hydro filter warning indicator light turns off. Washing. If the oil pressure warning indicator does not turn off, which can be in 15 seconds starting with the engine, turn off the engine check for engine check cause. Alright, check the instrument panel, indicate with the gauge with the proper indications. Turn the 15-second engine start with the check the oil pressure warning indicator lights turn off. If it does not turn off, to stop the engine, investigate the cause. 217. Starting the engine, continue to check the air pressure gauge with the pressure indicator with the green with the zone, the air pressure warning with alarm start, and stop at the sound with the air pressure gauge with the indicator with the green zone. After the 30 to 45 seconds, stop the engine, check with the gauge. Check with the voltage meter, the indicator with the gauge between 20 and 32 volts of the normal voltage indicator that does not seem to turn off the engine, check with the cause. The 1516 operating engine, approximately 1000 RPM with the water temperature gauge, pointing with the indicate the green area, air pressure gauge, water temperature gauge, voltmeter, oil pressure indicator, the clutch warning indicator. Do not operate with the engine in idle speed with a longer period of the time. The long periods of idle speed will cause acid deposit for the engine from lower operating temperature speeds. Starting the loader. 1. Operate the lift arm control level to raise the bucket no less than 12 inches from the ground. Put the vehicle lights in the main switch level in the stop position. Press the vehicle and brake tread valve with the float lower in neutral position. Play for the release spark with control with the pushing knob and into the forward and far as the brake engage with the clutch pressure warning indicators will go. 5. Move the transition control level to the desired position. Move the foot pressure with the brake tread valve with press with the accelerator pedal with required to move the load and accelerator to desired speed. You have the guide the line with the transmission lever, the shifting lever, the lifting control arm level, the shift caution, shift the front end of the high range for the forward, H for the low range for the forward, L at the ground, the engine time speed higher than 1/4 throttle of the damage to transmission. Shifting the high range forward, H for the reverse, R with the loaders is more moving also damage transmission. 217 operation procedure for the continuing start with the loader with the transmission transmission. I can't read. Brake control level, the accelerator pedal with the brake tread pedal with the main switch, and the transmission control level. High range forward. You for the range, move the low loader to the one location from the to another. Do not shift the high range for the H to the low range to the ground with the engine speed with approximately quarter to throttle with the left. Do not shift the high range forward. High range H forward to high range. The reverse too low with the move the low range forward. Although you can shift the low range forward L to the high range forward. Engine speed reducing engine speed ground to the approximately quarter of the throttle, half the throttle being for shifting low range throttle L to the reverse. Reverse if you can shift from reverse to the low range forward L at any speed, whose engine speed ground speed approximately 1/2 the throttle before shifting of the reverse of the low range forward L. Water temperature gauge, clutch, press warning indicators, indication key switch, hydraulic filter, warning indicator, declutch, treadle valve, auxiliary, steering, warning, buzzer, and indicator. Or starting the loader, declutch tread valve can be used during the operation aims to be with the range. The declutch tread valve with the wheel and press with the disengage with the transmission and apply with the strip of the brakes and then use with the maximum power with the loader with the knee with the declutch tread valve with the quickly raise with the bucket with the fill with the pressing The treadle valve of the pressing with the accelerator pedal with the increase with the engine RPM with the clutch pressure with the warning indicator left instrument panel with the indicator with the wheel turn on with the declutch tread valve with the press with the indicator with the flashing on and then off of the instead of the lead with the declutching tread valve with the not press at the top of the engine notify the organizational maintenance with the check with the conversion temperature gauge with the left instrument panel with the gauge point indicator with the red area with the select with the low transmission speed. If the pointer remains in the red area, stop the operation, move the transmission control level to neutral and position for the operating engine with the full throttle several minutes. This does not reduce the temperature indication. Stop the engine, check with the transmission oil level, we'll check the water temperature gauge with the on the left instrument panel with the gauge pointer indicates radiator to stop the engine, check with the radiator coolant level, the low oil pressure with the warning light, buzzer for the top of the operation, immediately air pressure gauge for the low safe level before the parking way while engaging the auxiliary. Gauging automatically. If the auxiliary steering water buzzer sound with a warning indicator, turn with the stop operation, turn off the engine immediately before starting the engine key switch to the opposition. Notify the organizational media immediately. If the hydraulic filter warning indicator turns on during the operation, continue operation, notify the organization at the end of the work shift. Stopping the loader. Press the brake treadle valve with the stop loader with the U for the left arm with the control level, the plate for the lower position, lower bracket of the crown, control the control level, the neutral position, put the transmission control level, the neutral position, pull on parking brake with the control knob with the engage with the parking brake, operate the engine idle speed with approximately 2 minutes. 217, stopping the loader. Turn the ignition key switch off position, pull out the shut off the control valve when the engine with the stop of the push off the control level, the float lower, neutral, and raise the left the control transmission control level, the shutting off the control level, parking brake control, ignition key switch, operating with the loader, excavating, operating with the hillside with the dangerous rain, snow, with loose gravel, the soft with the ground, chain with the ground condition, only with the operator, determine the machine safely operating with the hillside of the ramp. Before operating with the hillside of the ramp, always make sure the low range of the never code for the downhill with the transmission neutral. If you do so, could cause the loose of the control over the roll over the causing the life of the serious injury that extends to the property damage. Use the lifting arm control level to raise the bucket approximately 12 inches above the ground. 217 and proceed with the continued operation lower for the continue with the bucket control level, the dump position adjust for the position bucket from the front edge for the lower to the rear of the bucket teeth will help dig into these type of the operation. Low float and lower neutral brave with the lifting arm control, the dump neutral and corral with the bucket control on the lever. Move the loader with the air into the air excavated with the transmission low range for forward engine speed with the full throttle. Use the lifting arm lever with the lower bucket to the ground with the bucket is desired to help depthly move the lifting arm, control level the neutral position, the continuing move the load forward, move the bucket in use of the bucket, control level the crowd position, roll the bucket back in the field with the excavated material, use the load time of the material to push in the front of the bucket, 32 loading the loose material. Use the bucket level indicator to ensure the bottom of the bucket is level with the ground with the end of the rod with the inch with the end of the tube with the bottom of the loader with the bucket is level with the ground. Push the lifter arm over the lifter to float, move the loader into the movement material. When the speed of the loader start with the degree, press the D clutch for the treadle pedal out and accelerator pedal with the put the lifting arm bucket with the control level of the rave for the crowd position respectively, and the two rave of the roller and back load procedure. Operating loader. Keep the loader bucket as low as possible, the lowest position. Give the better for the balance for the permits to receive the ground with the condition more clearly. If the bucket loader with the move of the forward, the observe the over the road, move of the road terrain with the cover of the loader is a slab. Always operate with the loader at a slow speed. Fail to do so because you control the loader to cause serious injury or the loss of life with extensive property damage. Transportation level, the lifting arm control level, the rave of the bucket with off the ground with the bucket control level, the grab roll the bucket, roll back of the bucket, but do not reef the bucket too high. Return the bucket control level, the neutral position after the bucket has been rolled back after the desired height is reached. Return the lifting arm control level, the neutral position. Lifting arm control level, the float and lower in the neutral raised position. Dump and rate. Return neutral crowd with the bucket control level. The U for the dumping the bucket. You lifting arm control level the rate for the bucket with the high with the lifting arm with the control level the neutral position, dump height with the reach within left with the side of the bucket with the high control with the pre-select, dump height with the lifting control arm the float lower and the neutral raised position, bucket control level the dump the neutral crowd with the position with the bucket the high control with the has been adjusted lifted low with the arm stop with the pre-selected dump height with the dump bucket the U for the dump bucket control level the dump the U for the turn jig automatically may determine the position back of the position over the next load with the putting of the bucket control level the crowd lifting arm control level the float. Loader bucket automatically roll back the loader to ground, lifting arm control in the neutral position after the bucket is ground. Operating loader contrition 5, the truck loading, even lifting arm control level the rave for the raise of the bucket, move the loader toward the side of the truck, float lever in the neutral raise position, flat for the control level of the dump, the neutral valve of the bucket control level. Use the brake tread valve of the treadle valve of the flow loader and declutch the treadle valve of this to stop the loader. As you move the load toward the truck, the use of the bucket height control to automatically position the bucket as desired. Dump height, dump load, and then truck with the use of the bucket control level, then dump the return the dig position bucket. In the next cycle to do this, use the lifting arm control float in the bucket, the control level of the crowd bucket will automatically roll back lower to the ground. After the bucket's groundly, return the lifting arm control level to neutral. 218. Preparation for the move. The driving loader, the moving move with its own proper power without special preparation for the transported suitable truck with a flatbed trailer, the transmission with a flatbed trailer, the plate for the blocks in the front rear with each of the trailer wheels. Want to be sure the ramp is securely with the fastened flatbed trailer to prevent personal injury with the damage of the equipment. Two plate for the ramps between the flatbed and the trailer on the ground. Warning before moving the loader up the ramps. Remove all the ice and oil, the grease from the ramp to prevent the loader from falling and causing the death of the serious injury extensive of the damage of the loader. Tell personnel to move away from the loader. Note the ramp should not be not provide a grade more than 40%. Starting the engine, raise the bucket on 1 foot off the ground, lifting arm control, lay for the raise the position, length to return with the neutral position, with the bucket control with the crowd position, roll back with the bucket with the complete with the return the bucket with control of the level of the neutral position, secure the bucket, roll back position within 12-foot length with the chain within the hook of the H end, with the rotate the chain hook with the center of the bucket, 2 for the lift arm, the braces is shown. Lift arm, chain, bucket rolled back. Transportation bracket lifted cylinder, lifting arm. Install the transportation bracket stored in the toolbox, either lifting cylinder, assembly rod, securing the cap screw in the nut, tearing off the engine. Caution when performing the flow of the following steps, be sure the engine is will be covered the damage. Transport the bucket, lifting cylinder, assembly made to store the bucket. Lift arms. Play for the lifting arm and the clock control over the lower position, slowly lower than the bucket. Lifting cylinder assembly with the rod will retract with the bucket will lower it into the rod and the resting of the transport bracket. Start the engine slowly, move the loader up the ramp position of the flatbed trailer. Pull up the braking control lever, apply the parking brake with the turn off the engine, remove the key for the ignition switch, play for the transportation, start with the locking position, move the transmission, hydraulic control up with the air neutral position. Driving continue. 13. Play for the blocks on the front and the rear of each trailer and shove the chain tied down with the rear and the front of the rear chassis fastened to the loader trailer. Play for the cover switch for the heavy power paper over the exhaust pipe at the tape into a place. Transportation surface link showed in locked engaged position. 16. Measure the ground with the highest point with the loader to clear the height of the loader. Must be known the driving under the overpass not to damage the loading loader to help the transportation driver the clearance height. Towing the loader. If the loader is disassembled, you may determine that it can be moved without further damage possible over the loader to repair with the engine and location can be repaired. There's location transportation trailer available to park with the trailer close to the loader as possible to the shortening of the towing distance. Warning: do not allow the personnel near the loader with the button of the towed the engine stop to cause a serious injury or death. Note: if the engine cannot be started, then step below. The engine can be started with the stop below. If the engine cannot be started with the raised loader of the bucket 1 foot above the ground, is followed attached to chain hoist, other suitable lifting device to lower the lifting arm center support, and pull the lifting arm control level back to the raised position chain, loading lifting center support. Alright, towing the loader, continue. The raised loader, lifting arms, the U with the chain hoist, lifting device, and so the transportation bracket, store over the toolbox, or either lifting cylinder, the assembly rod with the securing the U with the cap screw, and the play for the lifting control arm level of the lower position, lifting cylinder, assembly, retract the bucket with the lower until the rod eye with the reload resting on the transportation service bracket. Lifting arm, transportation surface bracket, lifting cylinder. Attached to the chain hoist other than suitable lifting device lower to the bucket center tube with the plate for the control lever in the crowd position. U with the chain hoist to roll the bucket back. H. Secure the bucket assembly roll back position with a 12-foot in length of the chain with a hook in the end of the position. 1. Check with the chain hook with the center of the bucket tooth over the lifting arm brace for the shutdown and play for the as shut. As shown, play with the bucket control level in the neutral position. Disconnect the chain hoist, lifting of the device for the loading bucket. Go to step 3 below. If the engine can be started with the start of the engine, raise the bucket 1 foot off the ground with even lifting arm control lever to raise the button with the return of the neutral position. Use the bucket control level in the crown position. Roll back with the bucket completely. Return the bucket to the control level in the neutral position. Secure the bucket assembly roll back position. Use the 12-foot length with the chain with the front hook with the front of the end of each position. 1 chain hook with the center bucket. 2 the lifting arm bracket shown as shown. Install the transportation bracket stored in the toolbox on either of the lifting cylinder assembly rod, securing the cap screw and a nut. Alright, AE, turning off the engine lifting arm chain with the bucket rolled back. The transportation lifting cylinder assembly lifting arm with the caution when performing the following step to be sure the engine failure to do so will cover the transportation bracket lifting cylinder assembly made to store the lifting bucket lifting arms. Place the lifting arm control over the position slowly. Lower the bucket lifting cylinder assembly rod will retract the bucket will lower until the rod AI is resting on the transportation bracket. G. Go to step 3. 3. Place the transportation safety link in the locked position of the loader transportation turned into one side of the engine and its operable. Transportation safety link shown locked in the engaged position. Clear personnel from the area. Pull shut-off control all the way out. Return the ignition switch within the start position. At the same time, return the steel wheel. When the loader straight with the install of the transportation safety link, do not operate with the starter more than 30 seconds at a time without allowing 2 minutes for it to cool off. The place ignition key switch in the in-off position. Alright, towing of the loader. At the rear of the loader, remove the clear and clip of the drawing pin out of the end, remove the drawbar pulley, position the rigid drawbar location shown with the screw of the draw pin clip, remove the front of the rear drive shaft, and notify the organizational maintenance. 7. Attach the second unit of the call touch of the dozer rear end of the loader and clear as possible. Note if the rear of the axle failure is suspected, notify the organizational maintenance for the move of the axle shaft before moving the loader. 8. To disable the loader with the maximum speed of 5 miles per hour. The preparation air transportation of the loader can be transported with the C-130, C-141, C-58 aircraft can be removed with the road loader height with the 106.5 inches of the move. The part shall be palletized with the air transportation with the loader preparation, organizational maintenance in task. 219 operation instruction decals and navigation plate. Following the instruction shown location of the navigation plates contained with the operation service instruction warning of their contents. Alright, then show the different decals of the operation instruction decal indications. Your caution and warnings. Section 4, operating under unusual conditions. We're going to cut the tape here.